Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duville, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, a man who delights in a little pinchy-pinchy. Eh, what?
Tim Longo, what?
That is what
somebody said to you?
We will probably start talking about collecting and things like that a little bit. But that is what Blathers says to you if you bring Blathers a crawfish. A fish that delights in a little pinchy-pinchy. A what?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I remember Blathers, specifically his lines are quite good. The writing for him.
There's a lot of punning with the fish as well. Like every time you catch a new fish, there'll be some stupid thing it'll say based on the name of the fish.
Black bass or something. They make a guitar reference or something.
Yes, an amp. Yeah. I get a lot of that.
Or bluegill. It's like, don't worry, I caught the rest of the fish too.
It's silly. Yeah. Okay.
Animal Crossing.
Episode 2. It is this is quite a wild game, no pun intended. This is I remember how much I played it back in the day, and I'm just falling back into the same rhythms, like building up a bunch of money so I can pay off this second mortgage I have pretty quickly. I have not paid it off yet, but I've made a couple pretty big deposits. I probably have around 80,000 bells left on it. I have not paid it off, but I'm getting there. And then I'm sure I'll be offered another one.
I forget what happens next. Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe a second story.
I think you get a second story.
Yeah. I think I'm about 28 maybe away. I missed one session though. Sunday when we were doing our other stuff. That was my prime.
I also missed one Wednesday, so we both missed.
Oh, good. Okay, so we're on track then. I was going to try to do 2 sessions today, but the problem with the 2 sessions, which might be a segue for one of our topics, is the way that the sort of daily schedule sort of runs out for me. I think our choice to play an hour a day was really good. That was a good suggestion from you. Because I feel like after an hour is up, for the most part, other than sort of grinding, which is silly to say, but is accurate, I think, in this case, for fish or, things that respawn, bugs, if it isn't raining, I kind of feel like I run out of stuff to really motivate me to do, after about an hour. I don't know if you find the same thing, but... No,
I definitely have my sort of... my routine, and it generally involves running around a lot to look for things to dig up. And then kind of as I'm doing that, and bringing any new fossils that have been identified down to the museum. So it's kind of like there's these different paths that I take a lot at the beginning of play that are, dealing with things that I know are kind of immediate. Like, I got this bunch of mail and I've got a number of presents to open from that that are going to be fossils. So I'll sell the ones that I know I've already given, and then bring the other ones, and then maybe catch some bugs on the way. Like I'm trying to schedule when I'm going to go to the different parts of the world. But now I'm down there. Let me try to do some fishing in the ocean, because even if I don't get a new fish, I may get a red snapper, which are worth tons, et cetera, et cetera. So it just is, you have these rhythms that you fall into for sure.
Yeah. And I tend to use, so I'm doing something that is very atypical for me, as people listen to the podcast probably know, being sort of a collector in games and a completionist. Because I've set the goal to try to pay off this second loan as quickly as possible, I'm actually not bringing stuff to Blathers. The only things I'm bringing to him are paintings, because reselling those is not either. I've bought it from Tom Nook, so I'm not actually reselling it to him. But the rest of the stuff that is obviously grindable stuff, collectible stuff like fish and bugs and fossils. I'm just going directly and selling them, especially the fossils, because they're worth so much. And this is so hard for me because I never if I find a new fossil that I haven't found before, it's so hard for me to go and sell it because I want to go put it in the museum because that's my personality.
That fossil belongs in a museum.
I know. That quote comes to mind often.
Can't tell you how many times I've said it.
Yeah. So so my routine, the reason I bring that up is my routine tends to be focused on the animals, because what I usually do is I'll go down to Lost and Found. I'll go to the dump. First thing I do every day, go to the dump. Which is so funny. They have a dump, which I actually, luckily, who gave it to me? Oh, there was like spring cleaning day, which I don't want to get into that topic in a sec, but spring cleaning day, and somebody gave me, it might have been Tom, gave me a miniature model of the dump that you can put in your house.
What?
And then I just by chance got a miniature model of like the grass texture, which is just like a square texture, which you can also place in your house. So in my house right now, I'm forming the miniature version of the world with a little dump and a little grass patch.
Whoa.
But anyway, so I go to the dump and then I go down to Lost and Found and see if there's anything there, because sometimes if you find the person who the Lost and Found item belongs to, they'll give you something pretty good. But I use that as a motivation to basically, as I'm looking for things to dig up, I go to every animal and do, kind of exhaust the, the dialogue options there. And
interesting.
If you do the second one, which is the, just sort of like I'm bored or whatever, that's where they sort of open up and say, oh, you have the piano. I lost that, it doesn't happen every time. Sometimes either, I don't know why it doesn't like happen every time, but it's just, I'm getting this stuff to sell it to make money. So I just kind of do that routine. And then as I'm going from animal to animal, talking to them then, and seeing who has, delivery quests as well.
Right. Yeah, I end up doing a lot of delivery quests. A lot. I don't know that I talk to every animal every day because I'm starting to get to have quite a few of them, and I'm sure I miss some every day. I know I'll run by somebody, but my pockets will be full because I'm off to sell fruit to Tom Nook, and I'll realize, I should come back and talk to them, but I'll run out of time or I'll just forget. I haven't talked to Rhoda recently. My chicken, one of my chickens is
Rhoda.
Yes, like the Rhodesian is Rhode Island. What is it? Rhode Island Red, I think, is a chicken variety.
Okay,
well-known chicken variety.
Again, the localization is very interesting to me for this game. I don't know if it's Treehouse or who in the West is having fun with all of these puns and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally a chicken is a Rhode Island chicken, Rhode Island red chicken is called a roadie, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. I've never owned chickens.
It's clever.
So, yeah. So yeah, it fits right in.
Well, I told you about my cow named Chuck.
Yes, your cow named Chuck.
So it's like they're not messing around. Chuck seemed pretty grumpy too. So. But anyway,
I don't blame him. Right. So I didn't know that about the Lost and Found, that those were items that possibly belong to people. And now I'm going to change my approach, because I've gone in there and I basically examine things for aesthetics and then I just leave them if I'm not interested. So I go and I walk up to things and I go, I don't know that I really want, X, Y, or Z. I don't like this shirt. That sounds like like a number shirt or something like that. I'm like, I don't know if I want a number shirt. Yeah. And I'll just leave it.
You're playing the way you're supposed to play. Like it is that. I mean, we didn't put it down in topics, but I think we should every episode kind of come back to the general topic of it's just such a tranquil, unorthodox game, and it's just so nice to not be threatened, by anything, and you're just you're playing, wherever your whim takes you, and it's like, I don't really want that shirt. I'm playing probably not the best way. And I'm not even sure why. I think maybe because I know we're only going to play for, a certain amount of time, because it's really a game that should be played over the course of a year, And I think that's how I played it originally. Played it for quite a while, and you you fall into those grooves, and come back to it kind of daily. And I'm sure even back then, I only probably played for about an hour at a time. But I think I'm just min-maxing and the money side of it, and literally everything I find I sell, even if it's a random umbrella or something, because I want to try to. Yeah, I'm just playing like an idiot, not really embracing the sim as much as I should. I'm min-maxing.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about the real time of day stuff, and because you're talking about playing over a whole year or whatever, and how that ties in, and that is definitely one of the things that set this game apart. Certainly at the time, is it's tied to your system clock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, you can fiddle with that, and I gather that's why cockroaches come into the world or something.
Yeah, if you don't visit your house for a certain amount of time, they'll come.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that's...
Or they'll be in your house at least. The ones outside, I don't know. Those are just random, I think. But
oh, okay. Because that was the first insect I caught.
Yeah, good work.
A cockroach, and it's like, oh, it's disgusting. Yeah. And I'll put it in my pocket. And I'm like, no, that's not what I went. And that's unusual. It's been funny for me because I mostly play in the evenings. I don't know if you do, but I mostly, other than the weekends, I play around 5:30, 6 o'clock when I stream.
Yeah.
And every time they're like, boy, it's getting pretty late in the day. Are you just getting up? And I'm like, no, I have a life, Animal Crossing person. It's every time, every day.
They're griefing you.
Yeah, they're giving me
all the animals are trolls, is what you're saying.
That's right. They're trolling me on that stuff. And I'm like, I want to reset my clock just so they don't say that every day. But you also, right, I mean, there are other, I mean, we had a number of things happen. We had spring cleaning day, which... I don't know. Was that the first?
I think it was the 30th. It was
the 30th of April, right? Okay. It's been, all of that's been kind of wild. I had forgotten. I remembered that there were some in-game events, but I thought they were all tied to holidays, Halloween, or I don't know if there's a Christmas one. I know that there's seasons, certainly, because even just the preview of the game, while it's on the title screens, will show different seasons and things like that.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten the degree to which there was sort of a rhythm to the world that's just world specific. I don't know. But yeah, having them complain every day, and then on the weekends, I'll go down and see Blathers, and he'll be asleep because he sleeps until 6 p.m. Every day, because he's a bit of a night owl. See, a little bit owl humor there. That's just wild to me. It is so, that is just not how games are, right?
No, I think that was I agree with you. That was a differentiator. There's a certain, like the system clock part of it was, I remember when it came out and we were all playing it, that the system clock part of it was considered an innovation in a way, especially for a console game. Even, am I remembering this right? Was it even part of the marketing for the GameCube as a system? Did other games might have used it actually too? I feel it's kind of a weird one for sure, but this was definitely the poster child for it. And not only that, but there's sort of like, I think we mentioned it last episode as I had a preview topic that we didn't mention. I won't go too deeply into it now, but there's some mobile game DNA in here before mobile games were really a thing, or even Facebook games. And I think of things like Farmville or something that blew up, right? Was the first real Facebook game to blow up socially like that. And what I mean by that is, we are playing essentially an appointment-based game that has a limitation to how much you can do on a daily basis, weekly basis. There are events that happen that bring you back into the game, potentially. It's based on the real world clock. There's an economy that you're grinding toward, like all of these things I'm saying are things you could,
all these energy mechanics basically
and
Yeah.
they didn't know it, right? But until we started playing this, it didn't really occur to me. And then my other topic is really the mobile Animal Crossing game that I'm also playing and have been playing. It didn't occur to me that some of those sort of fundamental sort of, mechanics and systems are actually things that are being used today for ill or not in certain cases. In mobile
this
games,
game didn't have a way to monetize basically, oh, I want to advance my day, or I want to advance my energy, reset my energy, meters or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's liberating, right, for it to not actually be a mobile game, but to have some of those very sort of methodical and ritual based actions you're doing, which is fun. It's nice, like I said, to play a game that is in contrast to a lot of the other games we play, where you can just go fishing, and the fact that the mobile stuff is not ingrained into it is a refreshing thing in this day and age, to go almost to go backwards, right? Before a time when things were simpler and we were more naive about
a simpler time where you could just move to a village and have a bunch of animal neighbors,
right? Who grief you? They griefed me over. When we finally got the axe kind of pop up in the store, I started chopping down a bunch of trees that I didn't want around. And I guess I did too many, because they started almost all of them.
It's all about balance, Tim.
Yeah. Well, apparently,
you should know that.
Well, I know, but as somebody who worked for the Forest Service in the past, there is a certain amount of forced maintenance you need to do from a fire
you have
perspective.
to get out there, and rake and vacuum and stuff. I know.
You gotta rake. You gotta rake the forest floor. You gotta get that stuff up. Wow, that's a deep cut for those who. Cut. Yeah. I'll never forget Newsom's face in that. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. But,
the axe, and they were cutting down the trees.
Oh, no. Where I was going with bringing up the mobile topic was, there's the monthly and sort of annual events, but also weekly, for instance. And I think I don't remember. I'm not looking at any guides or anything, so I'm having to do everything by memory. But like, there's the camel who shows up. I don't know if she's random or not.
She did not appear on my second Saturday. She appeared on my first. Maybe at a particular time, and my times may not have overlapped.
Well, there's just all these. Yeah, she's an example. Have you met Red yet? Is he popped up for you? Red.
I have not met Red. That's not the fortune teller, is it?
No. Yeah, Katrina is another example. There's
Katrina
Gulliver
came back to town as well.
There's sort
Gulliver
of like
my town.
Some of them are random events, and some of them I guess are random, but some of them are based on the day of the week, right? I thought Red was on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I read someplace like it was on an animal told me, but I've been playing those days and I haven't seen him. He's the other vendor who brings furniture twice a week, and he usually sets up shop like in the world someplace. And there should be a sign, one of those signs that's in the world that tells you where he'll pop up, I think. Anyway, I don't remember exactly, but my point is there's sort of rhythm to the world on a weekly basis too, right? So there's the real time of day, daily, there's the weekly rhythms where things will happen, and then there's the sort of annual rhythms. And that's the sort of spine of the game that keeps you at a rhythm of coming back into the game. And also discovering stuff. Like the first time you find Gulliver on the beach, passed out, and you're like, what is this guy doing here? And you try to wake him up, and but it's just a delightful moment because it's a true discovery because you're not doing anything else in the game, right? You're picking weeds, you're digging stuff up, you're fishing, you're talking to random animals, and then these little moments happen, or even Katrina's tent, who's a fortune teller, shows up, and you're like, "Who is this?"
What is this about?
Yeah. So it's just a delight in such an interesting and at the time very foreign way. Like the other genre that you could put in the similar category that was happening around. Let's see. What year? Yeah, I guess it was happening around the same time were MMOs, right?
Right, MMOs. That's exactly where I was going. Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's That's still true today of your destinies in particular, where you have daily activities, right? That they build that game around, and and have storylines that I think are week to week or something like that. So they've kind of leaned into the real time clock and evolving the world. Even Fortnite has that sort of stuff, sort of seasonal stories and things like that. And we've seen some of that in Diablo 3, though that's more of a achievement motivator. It's a new season, so there are new achievements, new sets, new whatever to try to chase, to do all the
MMOs, and WoW and others have daily quests you do, right? Or quests that revolve on a weekly basis, right? So you have a certain amount of days to do them before they disappear, and so it's all of that sort of appointment-based gameplay is being shared and swirling around in all sorts of different platforms and genres right now. And the interesting thing, as a quick side note, and then I won't talk anymore about the mobile topic, but playing Pocket Camp, which is the current AC mobile game from Nintendo and DNA, is the thing that I realized, because it actually got a pretty big criticism from AC fans because it's such a mobile game, right? It has the monetization ways to sort of replenish your whatever currency that you want at the time, right? You can spend real money. Of course, that's how it's doing it. It's a free game. But the thing I remembered, because I'm not really spending money on the game, that I was surprised about is it builds in that sort of daily routine the way that we are playing here in this game. What I mean by that is once an hour is up, I've pretty much done everything I need to do for the day in that game, and I feel satiated, and then I just stop playing, and then I'll play again the next day. But it's built in like ingrained into mobile games anyway. So it's almost like AC is almost, unless you get into the trap of spending real money, which people can, and it's hard to avoid sometimes. But unless you get into that trap, AC is built for that mobile routine. And Pocket Camp is not your traditional AC game for sure, and I understand the criticisms. But for me, it's also a way for me to disengage because I've kind of run out of stuff to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting in that regard.
Now, does it have the similar money mechanics with Tom Nook and all of that stuff as well? So you're still paying down a mortgage or whatever, a loan? Okay.
Yep. And they have a couple other, obviously, currencies that will allow you to speed certain things up. The main thing that it has that New Horizons also has, and it's very interesting to start. I started playing that game as well. Is crafting. So there's essentially now a need for resources to build things with, right? So if you want an axe, you have to go and get the resources to build an axe, and that's in the new one as well, in New Horizons. So if you don't have enough resources to craft a piece of furniture in Pocket Camp, you have to, either wait for the next day to get some more resources from animals, basically doing fetch quests. So instead of them giving you the actual piece of furniture that you want, they're giving you the things to make the furniture, and you choose what you want to make. That's kind of the difference.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, that's a pretty big difference, I would think, because then, I mean, to sort of segue into the tools topic, that gives you a reason to have these tools and why you'd want to change the world, other than just sort of filling out the collectibles, for example, from digging, or to clear space for your peach orchard, as far as chopping trees down would go, rather than trying to do it to get the wood. Right? I assume that trees. I have not bought an axe. I know you have. The trees just disappear, right? You chop down a tree and there's no tree.
Right. Yeah. There's a stump that you can dig up, but yeah, there's no resource from it.
A shovel to get rid of the stump as well.
Right. Though I did have a funny thing happen that I think would have happened if I had just shaken the tree a bunch, but I was chopping down one tree and a piece of furniture fell out of the tree. And the funny thing about it is it was a piece of furniture I really wanted. So that, we have acquisition loops on the agenda for today too. And, getting furniture in this game it's all coming back to me is fairly cumbersome, or not cumbersome, but it's a long game, right? Because it's basically a giant loot box. You don't
Exactly.
know what you're going to get, and you have
Yeah.
no control over what it is. And that's the thing I do like about the new crafting games, aspects in the games is, if I do want a piece of furniture, I at least can set a goal for myself to get it. But in the original AC, you're at the whim of, I don't know, maybe they have some systems behind the scenes that if you clearly are collecting a certain set, maybe I can't imagine, I'm giving them too much credit. I can't imagine that they change the sort
The
of
values based on that.
yeah.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think in a substantial way anyway. It'd be very noticeable.
Yeah, probably so. So I'm sure somebody's cracked that if that's the case or not. But on
They're
pretty much
looking at
every
me and they're going, "What is with this guy? He's got like 8 gyroids in his house."
yeah, right. You're not gonna be digging up any more fossils. You're just gonna be digging up gyroids.
I haven't had one in days. I'm
Oh,
starting to get
really?
concerned. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's the opposite
I
then.
sold one because I already had it, so I didn't need another one. But I haven't had one for several days, and I'm starting to get worried.
That's too bad. Maybe it's
I
the
need a bigger
opposite.
house.
Yeah.
I need several floors for gyroids.
Well, I like in every Animal Crossing game, the first 2 sets that I go for, literally every one of them, and I've played every one, is the cabin set and the ranch set, for maybe obvious reasons. I'm just obsessed with that kind of stuff. And so I was chopping this tree down, and a cabin bed fell out of it.
Nice.
And I was overjoyed, But as far as acquisitions loops go, if you can't set goals for yourself, right? You're really just this original game. You're at the whim of the system.
If you're not happy with pears, if you wanted peaches, sorry, you got pears. You know, and I'm kind of bummed I have pears.
You're not a pear fan?
I'm not a pear person. There's texture.
Yeah. Well, so I am a peach person. I have peaches, and ironically, in all 3 of my Animal Crossing games, peaches are the ones that I got. Well, I mean, in the Pocket Camp one, you get most of the fruits, but anyway, maybe it's hard for me now to go back because you don't have the problem where you're playing these modern versions at the same time. But for me, it's hard to go back because I really do like completing sets. And I forgot that, if you want to get if I want to get a full cabin set, it probably would take me most of the year to get the full set because it is.
So how many items is a set then?
So the cabin set is maybe, in this game, it might be 6 or 8. So you have a bed, chair, table, dresser, lamp. I think there's a clock, a standing clock. Stuff like that. And then does
it tell you, like, how do you know that you've completed a set? Because I don't know that I've ever completed a set in Animal Crossing.
So in the
in the Happy Room mail, maybe?
No. Well, I don't know if in this one, if they actually like give you some sort of achievement, if they advertise it in like an achievement-y kind of way. Yeah. I think you'd have to go talk to Nook and look in the catalog and then see.
Oh, and the catalog has a list of the things.
Yeah. The catalog when you talk to him, the catalog will basically tell you everything that's possible to get. And obviously things you've already gotten. Oh, is that? Do they reveal them before you've gotten them? I forget. But there is a way to look at the list. And to fill it up.
I haven't looked at the catalog because I haven't had. I'm not super acquisitive, so it's like, I'm a pack rat. Like, I don't like to get rid of stuff, but I'm no longer a person who likes to acquire stuff. So
yeah, right.
In this game, it's been kind of like they'll give me things and I might sell them. There have been times where I've just taken things and just put them in the dump because I don't want this shirt anymore. I have 3 shirts, I guess, in my dresser because I figured out that you could actually put the clothes in the dresser, but only 3. You can't put 4 in the dresser. I'm sure there's all these things that they do just to limit the memory, to be very specific about the memory storage because memory cards at the time were not large. Because you're basically I don't know what kind of RAM that would be, or maybe a flash ROM or something. I'm not sure how it exactly works, but it has to store it. Yeah, on the memory card, it has to store. It's not like having a hard drive and having that thing, sort of store indefinitely, more or less, for a long time. Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think you're playing in this sort of just live life kind of way. I think that's fun. I mean, you're using the dump. You're not you're not being precious about stuff. You're not min maxing, which I feel, to be honest, I know I'm not playing. I think maybe for the podcast, I'm experimenting a little more than I would. Like the fact that I haven't even given Blathers anything but painting so far is hurting my soul because I love.
Yeah, I'm flabbergasted by that because I just couldn't. I would think about having an item like literally when I get them, I'm like, oh, I don't think I've given him this one yet.
Yeah,
I get all excited. I was so down yesterday. I got a plesiosaur torso, and I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Because I didn't think I had given him one, but I had, and so I got there. I was like, oh, we had this whole conversation. He goes on and on about, oh yes, in fact, you gave us this. You gave us the torso. Boy, I wish I could buy this from you because it's really, really nice. And he just goes on and on and on. And at this point, I'm like, if I had remembered, I would not have brought it here, and I would not be sitting through this discussion of how you already have it. But yeah, it's very, it's amazing to me that you are not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, just to talk about the museum for a second, that I felt like was another great, I guess it's not really innovation per se, but when it comes to games that have things that you can collect and get essentially complete and full sets, having like a nice place to put them, and then going into
that might be how I hook you on another AC game, Assassin's Creed, because that is a thing that they do very well. Actually,
trophy rooms
and things like that, where you go in. You can literally just see all the things that you've bought or collected or what have you. And I'm not sure that was there in the very beginning, but it's certainly since Assassin's Creed 2, that series, and ever since, and all the ones that I've played, there's been a place you can go and see. Here are all the outfits I have. Here, just all of that nonsense is there.
Well, and I assume they're in a real world place, sort of, right?
Correct.
Like a real game world place. Yeah. Which I think, who knows? I don't remember what games had done it before Animal Crossing, but I'm sure there were some, but having it in because this game from a context perspective, everything is very grounded in the world, you're physically doing things and talking to people and going to you have to mail things at the post office, so there's, it's very much like, and the fact that the trophy, essentially quote unquote trophy space, is also just a museum, it's just cool. I just remember loving, and hopefully while we're playing this, I'll get to this point once I pay some stuff off. But I just remember going into the fossil room and just seeing, your accomplishments, once you finish a, skeleton or what have you. It's so gratifying and cool because it's just so physical. So yeah, it's, but the going a little bit back to the acquisition loop stuff, like the random drop nature of it, combined with the different sort of ways. So what are the different ways you can potentially acquire a piece of furniture?
So it can be buried.
It can, technically buried. Yes.
Buried. I mean, basically in the environment. So buried are apparently in a tree. Who knew?
Yeah. I had forgotten about that until it happened, which is obviously a delightful moment.
You can trade. You can get it from a villager.
Right.
For doing a task.
Thing. Yeah.
You can trade for rugs with Sahara.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So you can, but you have to get one.
You have to have one. Yeah.
So that was the funny thing. That I went and bought one that I didn't like to trade with Sahara, and you can't see what you would get if you trade with Sahara. Right. And the one Sahara had was worse.
Yeah.
I liked it even less. So I've been carrying around that rug, and we'll talk about inventory in a little bit, but I've been carrying around that rug the whole time since almost, a week and a half, I guess, 10 days since Sahara came, and been hoping that Sahara would come again so that I could maybe get a better rug. I already have this rug. It's the rug I have on my floor, and I don't like it, and I want a better rug. Anyway.
So I have luckily already gotten, by chance, the cabin walls and the ranch floor, which are the two two of them that I would want, but I don't know how. I've been pretty lucky with some of that stuff.
I got the modern wallpaper, and I was pretty happy with that. So
nice. This is such a ridiculous conversation. Nice. You got the modern wallpaper. Good work.
Good work.
But speaking of acquisition, then you have Tom Nook's, right, which is
right. You can
daily.
He puts there. Yep.
Daily, change it out daily. So another sort of daily loop thing that you want to do is check to see what is in his inventory. You have Lost and Found. You have the dump. And that's.
Are there any other ways?
I mean, things from mail, but that's also kind of from an animal or from your mom or something.
Right, and you could get them. Yeah, I've had them. I've had animals give them to me. I have, from the, occasionally you'll have an animal who'll say, "Write me a letter, please." So I've been carrying on a torrid love affair through letters with Bertha, the hippo.
So tell me, because I had forgotten and didn't spend enough time fooling with the mail system. What do you mean? Like how it's going back and forth, or how does it work?
It's really just me on my side.
It's a one-way relationship.
Right now, I don't think Bertha. I mean, to be fair, I did say you must tell no one, and I guess she has also decided not to tell me of our relationship. She did reply to the letter I sent. Very casual, almost a brush off, really. So I don't know how I'm going to proceed with that. Whenever I write a letter, I try to bring in some theme from the paper, because the museum, you write a letter. I write 4 or 5 letters identifying fossils every day.
Yeah.
And to write "please identify" every time is pretty tedious. So I try to work in something from the theme of the paper. So I was naming different polkas when I had the polka dot paper. I was making references to panda bears when I had the panda paper. Something about, I don't remember what I did for bamboo. Something else foolish. Something with squid ink. I've been finding ways to work with the themes of the paper I've given. But then when an animal wanted to hear from me, I had to come up with a whole new direction to go, because it wasn't the museum. It felt more personal.
Yeah. Wow. That's some commitment. So I've taken to the first character or symbol on the keyboard is the exclamation point, and I type an exclamation point, and then I finish the letter. then I send it. I put the fossil in the thing, and then I send it, and it works just fine.
But I'm sure in your head you hear the alert sound from Metal Gear.
Yeah, right, exactly. They better identify this fossil fast, because I want the money. And then I experimented with some animals and did the same thing to them, and their responses are hilarious, because they ranged. I'm going from memory. I took pictures of them. I don't have them with me here, but maybe I'll read some of them in the next episode. But they ranged from tones like "Are you okay?" Your last email to me was very disturbing, to you're very offensive. Some of them thought I was offending them, and just general confusion, which I thought was great. That I just send them a mail with an exclamation point in the body, and that's it. And they, I can't say that any of them were not appropriate responses. They're vague enough, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because they have a set number of written.
I suspect letters. They do that based on length, like that a letter that is longer, there's like a couple of lines, is the sort of thing that will provoke a kind response, which is basically what I got from Bertha. Whereas I think probably the short, like, I'm just doing this as lip service types of letters, right, like such as you've been sending, will get those kind of nasty / it's probably based on the character's attitude. So you send it to a nice character, they'll be concerned about you. You send it to a grumpy character, they'll be ticked, or find you offensive or what have you. I think it probably has to do, I think there are characters who are sort of, socialites or or posh or something like that.
Yes.
Right. So based on those sorts of things, they'll have responses because they know, right? I mean, they know that most players are not going to take the time to type things out, and they want to reward both behaviors. They want to basically wink at you and say, "We know what you're like," in both cases. And I think those are really only the two cases. I mean, I think it's always sort of vague is probably a good term. I mean, it works.
They're general, so they can be multi-purpose.
Yeah, I suspect you could write fairly gobbledygook for several lines, and you would still get a reasonable response.
Maybe not test that out.
Maybe not if you did like all of a single letter or something like that, or tons of punctuation. But I bet if you made stuff that looked wordish, letters mixed together, maybe some capitals, punctuation every now and again, I bet it would fool it. I mean, I don't think it has a dictionary or anything like that inside the game.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the next thing I was going to try that I just haven't had time to, is to start using some I would guess at some keywords that they might pick up, like love and hate, as a sort of silly / obvious example. And actually, I like your idea about sort of doing a pen pal situation with one particular animal. Like if I pick Olivia or something, because I know Olivia's personality over the years now, which is weird, very weird of me to say, this cat that you kind of meet every game, or I have at least. So, you build and then pick another animal and be very, I don't know, aggressive in the male and see if there's any, recognition to that sort of, because if they did use keywords like that, then maybe
it's very tricky though with keywords, because you could say, I hate that. Yeah. I hate something, right? I hate something about the world, and that could be very easily misinterpreted. Yeah. So it's a difficult thing to do. And this is well before, I don't know about well before, but it's a bit before things like chatbots, and certainly on a system like this, I don't think it would have been something they wanted to spend CPU on. Possible to do, I think, at the time to do a little bit more, but it would be pretty fiddly. I think it would be very easy to break the illusion.
Yeah, right.
I think that is against a Nintendo aesthetic. I mean, I think with Nintendo, they are very much about maintaining the illusions of the worlds they make, and doing anything specific, if it had a pretty good chance of breaking the player's belief in the world, I think that they would tend to go against it. So
yeah, that makes sense. I think just for the for the podcast, I was going to dabble and see if anything came of it, but I think you're right. Yeah, I'm sure you're right on that stuff. The thing, to your point about animal personalities, one interesting thing, because there's definitely a sort of, you can imagine some sort of data file for each animal that is giving certain variables to them to how they might, like we talked about in pre-show, if you accidentally decline the offer to deliver something for them,
yes,
certain ones will react pretty poorly to
not
it.
like that. Yeah.
And they actually have little emotes that happen afterwards too, right? They'll the clouds over their heads and some sound effects and stuff and animations. Even the facial expressions change, which I think are great, because they kind of get a frown on their face and furrowed brow, and I think all those little details are great. But one thing they do over the course of the series, which I love, is they expose more of that stuff to you as a player. So they'll give you, like, each animal has an aesthetic that's like sporty or natural or whatever, and it ends up relating to some other gameplay that we don't need to talk about sort of knowing that about the animal. But then they also have little bios, and they kind of describe the attitude of the animal. So it gives you a little bit more. I don't know how much of it relates to gameplays per se, but it does give you more personality, clarity.
Yeah, I suspect they have sort of some number of letters that are basically templates or that match up with those characteristics. So, you write something to a grumpy character based on their just kind of guess like, oh, this is clearly not a real letter, right? Like the ones that you've been sending, will get that grumpy response. And something longer might still have a grumpy tone, but maybe it'll feel like they're a little warmer to you, and you'll just kind of, you'll carry that in your brain, even if it won't have actually modified anything about the state of the world. You'll think of that character as having warmed to you a little bit. I don't know. I mean, you can take even that stuff as far as you want, to some degree. You could track over time and make people kinder, but I think they really like these archetypes, and they don't actually want them to change too much, especially given that these are characters, as you pointed out, that stay with you for years.
Yeah,
because
they commit to their brand. Each character is part of the brand, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they want to keep. It's like Pokemon, right? It's like,
right.
Pikachu has a certain attitude.
Yeah, that seems like a kind of part of the DNA of this game, in a sense, is that they have some past experience with creating collectible character worlds, for lack of an actual term. But they know about establishing a personality and sticking with it, and not having that change based on gameplay, really. So yeah, I think that's probably something they've leaned into.
One thing that I'm realizing about the game, especially because I'm a little bit on AC overload right now. But we play all sorts of games on the podcast. We play all sorts of games in our free time, and you do on your stream and stuff. And because I don't really play a lot, like there's a lot of, I don't want to say AC copycats, but there are plenty of games out there that are in this category, and maybe some before. We mentioned Harvest Moon, and I don't know, the Farm Builds or things like that, right? And I'm just going to describe them as kind of more wholesome games. And it's part of it is just kind of the kind of gamers that we are. But when I play these games, I don't know what it is. It's the best way I can describe it is there's a lack of guilt in some way. And I don't know why that is.
Clean conscience gaming.
What's that?
Clean conscience gaming.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like it's an activity that it just puts you in a different mental state. You know what I mean? Where you're not shooting things, you're not hacking things, nothing's dying, sort of, except for fish and insects. And even in that case, you technically could put them in an aquarium in your house. I guess, yeah, the fish are not dying unless you sell them. So if you never sell a fish, then maybe you're not killing fish. But it's just it's just so foreign, I think, to a traditional.
In another way of speaking, it's so traditional.
Right. There you go.
It's real world traditional in some ways. I mean, and there's also at the same time, it feels sort of restricting and off-putting, I think, to the widest possible audience in some ways, right? I mean, there's definitely a very specific set of values here, and Nintendo has come under fire for that for years, right? They have been very, very slow to be even nominally aware that there are non-heterosexuals in the world, for example. There are only two genders in this game. One of them is cool and one of them is cute by default, right? When you're asked
for sure,
how you dress or whatever at the beginning of the game or something like that. And you can change the gender at that point, but of course it's binary. And I mean, there's just a lot of
normalization happening.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect way to put it. It is very normalizing on a very narrow, specific worldview. And for us who are fairly normalized in that way, and in most ways, I would say, that's not something that would rub us the wrong way. But I do think it's unfortunate that more people don't have the opportunity to see themselves in this. They have to just kind of swallow that as they have to swallow that in all kinds of aspects of their lives. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's also something you see in a small village, so it fits this theme. I mean, not always, but I think in some cases. So maybe that's particularly fitting for this game, but that doesn't make it a good thing. I think.
No, and I've also, it's over the years, like the other interesting thing to me, and this is maybe my own sort of application of a feeling about the games, this series is the how, like, what are they making, are they thinking about or making any statements about the animals themselves? And what I mean by that is, if you were to sort of take it at face value, the diversity in the animals is quite large, you know what I mean? Because animals, for better or for worse, are often allegory for, sort of human existence,
Sure.
in various ways, whether it be Animal Farm or what have you, Watership Down. And so I'm always like, we joke about Chuck,
Right.
and being the name of a cow, or what was the other one that was the name
Patty.
of Patty, and it's funny, but also, like, is there any, how much are they thinking about some of this stuff from an identity perspective, when I think they're trying to make the animals out to be a sort of a diverse cast, but then they have a joke like that creep in, and it sort of diminishes some of that. So, and then you also mentioned that, on a flip side of that is, especially in the new one, as I've started and I can see what Waypoint is thinking about. You mentioned Waypoint talking about the sort of colonialization sort of themes of things,
Right.
too.
Yes.
Where if you really think about it seriously, there's some stuff going on there, that isn't really addressed, and just tricky.
Yeah. I mean,
So
this game is very much about, well, it's not entirely about, but there's definitely this acquisition, the acquisition loops, and acquisition being a big part of the game. They keep reinforcing to you, hey, you should decorate your house because you'll get a better score on the Happy Room Academy or whatever it is.
yeah,
and they'll be rating you every day. And of course, we're gamers. We want to see those numbers go up. I'm around 9,000 now, I think, but I've started more like 5,000.
Nice.
Yeah, they love my gyroids, man. I have it's that wallpaper, but
or even just
yeah,
being in debt, right? Like,
right, sure, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, there's a whole very capitalist bent to the whole thing, and a deliberate exploitation of natural resources. Like literally everything is something that you can sell. That there's just sales value, and even Blathers will sort of, as I've said, if you've already collected that item, will be like, gosh, I wish I could buy this, which is, I know, there to reinforce the fact that, you could, even though that we already have one in the museum, you could go sell it to Tom Nook. There is sort of this, but that's, these are what these
value.
things are for, right? Their value is based on how many bells they're worth.
Right.
So there are some things that are troubling in this sort of narrow perspective.
You've talked me out of it. It's not a wholesome game. It's a terrifying game because it simulates.
Right? I mean,
but so we talked about some of this with Civ as well, right? Civilization in our series, right? Of like, when you're making a sim slash, I guess simulation based game. This is not obviously the same kind, but this is a simulation of life, a certain type of life, and they chose the type of life that they are trying to simulate, and that is going to, by definition, exclude other types of lives, and Civilization took a certain perspective on, how you build a civilization, especially when we played 3, which was still considered an early Civ, largely focused on conflict, and there were other ways, but clearly most of the systems are really built around that, and that is it's going to exclude certain perspectives on that, and so
I mean, and The Sims does this too, right? So this is not uncommon in sort of social simulation games, right? It's also true even of something like Stardew Valley or the Harvest Moons or whatever. I mean, it's all about bringing your vegetables to market, and you can build sort of big agribusinesses basically in these games if you want. You don't have to, but it's definitely there, and it does reward it, right? It does. There's no sense of like depletion, that you can't grow things here anymore or whatever, because you've overdone it. So it does miss out on kind of the darker side of those approaches to life, right? Because you put some things in, you leave some things out, and what choices you make there in your simulation are kind of saying what you find important to some degree, whether it's conscious or not.
Right. Yeah. I had I guess not too related and not intending to change the subject, but I had a question for you that I'd written in my notes that I forgot to mention. And I'm probably good that I didn't mention it in pre-show, but sort of a primer question for you at this point in our gaming for this game. How did they make a game where picking weeds is a thing you want to do? And I'm obviously that's a silly question and sort of tongue in cheek, but it's sort of a serious question as well, because the context of picking weeds, if you think about it, because I had this funny moment Saturday or Friday where I literally was outside in my own yard picking real weeds and not enjoying it. And then I went inside the house and played Animal Crossing and then picked weeds in the game, literally within 2 hours of each other, and, was all about it. So it's, I mean, like there's a psychology going on there.
Your hands don't get actually dirty when you pick weeds in Animal Crossing, right. So there's probably some personal stuff there. Not that you're a person who shuns the dirt, because of course you're not type. Right. If we were to put your type in Animal Crossing, right. But there is a sense of, well, I'm doing this. I'm doing this because this is a thing that they made for me to do, versus I'm doing this because I don't want my lawn to be ruined or whatever. Right? There's and they also just go away. Whereas of course real weeds you have to deal with. You have to bag them, or I don't know, something. I can't say that I do weeding myself, so I can't actually tell you what I would do with the things. But
it's messier and there's more steps, and this is a cleanly, not cleanly, but I'm just, the hospital term is escaping me. Sterile. Yeah, it's a sterile way to weed eat. And I kind of asked that question myself as well. And I think another part of the answer for me is they have given you, and this is a little bit in relation to sort of the sim topic we just talked about, but they're giving you a space that, as we talked about last episode, you generally get to know very well. It's filled with animals that are quote unquote your friends. And you're building up your own weird life. And the space is something that I think they want you to value, right? And to care about, and to, just basically, care about. And so if they identify that weeds are a thing that needs maintenance in the game, then, I have a friend who always used to say, life is 80% maintenance, and he was joking, but also serious. And we would debate it and talk about it. And, when we debated pretty heavily about it, you come to really the conclusion that he's pretty right in your day-to-day life. You'd like to think that it's not, but when it comes to just living, it really is the case. And, it's a part of the maintenance that they have put in a sterile fashion. But, if you want your world to feel, and I think that the animals even might grief you if you stop weeding, if you let the weeds go.
Yeah, they definitely do not like it if the town. I think that's one of the reasons why villagers might leave as well, is if the whole place got untidy. I mean, I will say, counterpoint is, when I used to worry about dandelions and things like that, when you get good enough that you can pull out a dandelion and the whole root system comes out all at once, it's so good.
It's gratifying.
So it doesn't have that at the same time, right? There's no skill basis for some of those things, and that's kind of sometimes where those skills come in to be kind of
Yeah.
interesting. And when there's the feedback, right? The fishing game here is probably the most skillful the game gets. Maybe catching bugs, but that's more just about walking. You actually have to really pay attention to the fish, or they'll get away because they only pop the bobber underneath briefly.
Yeah, there's even currents and stuff, right, in the river and the ocean too.
Right.
So you have
Can
to
sort of toss it, and it'll
aiming,
slowly drag past the fish and things like that. So that's probably the deepest the skills get. So it is somewhat more satisfying to catch a fish than it is to pull a weed. But yeah, I mean,
I thought that would be a funny question to.
It is an odd question
to prime, because there is I guess probably I haven't played Harvest Moon other than some back in the long ago, and then I haven't played Stardew Valley, but I'm sure there's weeding in those games or something, but it's not a common thing, but it's become a very accepted part of Animal Crossing, almost like one of those sub features that people expect, to the degree where in the new one, the weeds in New Horizons are actually pretty good looking. And I actually don't want to weed them as a nature guy. I want to actually leave them there. So I don't know what repercussions will come from leaving them there, but we call lots of things weeds, but a lot of weeds are actually quite nice in real life. So clover, for instance, right, is a weed, but it's nice. Anyway, that's a weird digression I didn't fully expect, but I knew it would prime some interesting, conversations, because gameplay motivation is weird in this game. And for whatever reason, I just don't mind weeding, even though I do it in real life, and I do. So,
yeah. All right. I want to actually, before we move to feedback, and we should probably just go straight to feedback after this, we just have a couple of reviews.
Sure.
I did look up something that came up last week, which was about gyroids and what they're based on.
Oh, good. Awesome.
They are based on something called Haniwa, terracotta clay figures that were made for ritual use and buried with the dead as funerary objects during the Kofun period of the history of Japan.
Oh, I should have known that. Kofun period was where we based some of the Tomb Raider stuff. So
right, of course. And they were apparently created with this particular technique where you mound up clay to build up the shape for the figure a layer at a time.
Wow. So when we're digging them up in the game, we're digging up somebody's grave? Because that's how you find them. You're digging them up.
Effectively, yes. I guess that is effectively true. I mean, we're getting fossils, but I guess the human remains have not fossilized. They've just disappeared, and we're getting the gyroids, which were terracotta, so they're therefore baked and preserved figures. And they make all those noises. So anyway, I looked that up.
That's cool. That's good. Yeah.
That would be worth.
Great. Thanks for doing that. Yeah, I knew it was. It's just like the Miis, right? The Miis were based on these cultural little figurines that Nintendo was basing them on. So the way that the sort of art direction of them is based on these figures. I forget the name of the figurines, but.
Well, speaking of weird sounds, maybe we should turn to feedback now.
Okay.
Where we have a couple of reviews. People have been responding to the call, which I very much appreciate. And we got one that was specifically addressed to you, which you should take away now, sir.
Okay. This is not something. I had a feeling that this might happen someday, but I don't want it to become a thing, even though Brett has wanted his to become a thing. This is not something I agreed to. Brett does not seem to be letting me off the hook on this one, but
you know what? I'll help you out in the future, but this
particular song is one that
exception. You got to have the exception that proves the rule, I'd say.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I for the fans, I will do it. This luckily is a song that is sung in our household quite often, because we're a musical household.
You're the Von Trapps up there.
Yeah, sometimes. I will say when
it's not from that. It's the same singer, but
yeah, no, it's no.
Not that.
No, it is. Yeah, my favorite. That's from
That's from Sound of Music.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, not from Mary Poppins.
No.
I couldn't remember.
Yep. Yeah, there was some fun trap singing when we went to Switzerland. I'll say that. No, it wasn't.
Oh, I'm sure the hills were alive with the sounds
Oh
of
my
life.
goodness, yes. So here we go. Tim's favorite things from Violet B. Trudell. Has Violet B. Trudell written in before? I don't recognize.
No, I don't think so.
I really enjoyed podcasts and have laughed many times at Brett's off-key renderings of songs about DGC. But I think it's only fair that we get Tim in on the action. But from years of listening, it's clear that there's only one subject on which we can really get him to sing, and that's Metal Gear Solid. So, Tim, ... for Snake? ? Okay. This is a singing review sung to the tune of My Favorite Things from Sound of Music. Lens flares on cameras with many a jump cut. CQC combat that shows off old Snake's butt. Cute codec calling to save with Mei Ling. These are a few of my favorite things. When the vamp bites, when pain's bees sting, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my Metal Gear things, and then I don't feel so bad. Who is this Raiden and Iroquois Pliskin invading a snow base? I hope you brought mittens, sons of patriots, pulling my strings. These are a few of my favorite things. When Gray Fox strikes, when Deep Throat rings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my Metal Gear things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Very, very well done, sir.
I've never read that until now, so that is very well written, and well done, Violet B. Trudell, you son of a or daughter of a.
You should really take out a Scrabble tile set at some point and like work with the anagram of Violet B. Trudell and see if you can come up with anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Are you serious? You are an anagram fan. Jeez, are you serious? Is it your fault? I didn't even see it. Oh my goodness, you anagram loving bastard. I'm just kidding. How did you keep such you played it so straight?
I turned off my microphone while you were saying, I'm dying here.
Oh, you did? That's why I was so quiet. I was like, wow, you're really quiet during this. I must not be doing a very good job.
Oh man. Somebody brought that up. I've been streaming Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yes,
we could just get you to sing my favorite things about Metal Gear. And we came up with lyrics on the stream. Oh, so good.
Oh, are you serious? That's how this happened? Oh.
Well, the first part was from Irreverent Q, so shout out to Irreverent, the old snake's butt and saving Mei Ling. And then afterwards, I started working up some other things to bring in.
CQC combat that shows off old snake's butt. That is amazing. Oh my god. Well done, everybody, and not well done, Brett Duville.
Oh well, thank you so much for that. That's I haven't had a good laugh in a while. Right out.
You bastard! That is just something else. I totally bought it. I figured this would happen at some point anyway. But listen, now that I know that this is Brett's fault, the people listening, this is not a thing. This is not a thing. I am not embracing it like he is. And I'm going to have to de-scramble every one of these now to see who sent it before I actually... But well written. There's some funny lines in there. Jeez.
Thank you.
Who is this Raiden and Iroquois Pliskin? Wow.
I did that, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I did everything but the first verse. So, paint. I was very pleased with bees.
Oh yeah,
paint bees.
When the vamp bites, when paint bees sting.
It's like, wasn't there a bee enemy?
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, we do actually have a real review. I should probably read that one.
Okay, yeah, read that.
We did actually have somebody heed the call, which we appreciate as much as I've been enjoying this.
Oh, you even had that as a cover. You're like, oh, people are sending in reviews. Oh, it's so great. It's like one of them's not from a fan. Oh, geez.
Oh, jeez. I got the geez from that one. This one is from Not a Doctor, if that is your real name. Thank you, Brett and Tim, as the subject. I discovered this gem of a podcast about 1.5 years ago and started right from the beginning and lapped up every episode. Tim and Brett do a fantastic job of bringing attention to old but never forgotten titles, some of which I knew and loved and learned new things about, others I never played but feel I've grown in appreciation for thanks to this podcast. The interviews with developers and other roles in the industry have been a particular treat and inspired me to no end. This podcast deserves more than 5 stars. If you haven't checked it out yet, you will not be disappointed. So,
wow.
Thank you very much, Not a Doctor.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. That's really flattering and humbling. Yeah. We're always glad that people are enjoying it. I'm still amazed we're doing it after 4 years.
After 4 years, yeah.
And it also, playing Animal Crossing specifically, just continues to remind me how crazy it is we're doing this, because we're to the point where we're playing this game and it's appropriate we're playing it, but it's such a funny game to do for the podcast compared to what others we've done, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it is so unusual. Yeah. I mean, we've played other games that are like a first in their genre, but as we pointed out last week, that this is one that is not the first of a genre in a sense, right? I mean, it's really its own thing, and nobody really, as pointed out, has done it. So it's relevant, you know, because it's Nintendo and because they've continued to do this thing for years. And it points out some specific things about Nintendo as well, I think, because some of which we touched on today. But it's not a game that has spawned tons and tons of imitators. And I think that's often true with the really out of left field games, that it's difficult to replicate their success. It's difficult to be the sort of company that can do that. I mean, not a lot of people have made something like The Sims, despite the outrageous success that game has had over the years. It's not something that's been replicated. So,
it's also hard. It's also hard to break in, right? When you know, especially like with The Sims as an example, when you know somebody has basically cornered the market on it. I think about it from somebody in the Greenlight meeting, you know, for a competitor, you know, I can totally see the executives or whatever saying like, well, look at the market share in The Sims. Like, what do you expect to do? You know, it'd have to be so much better. And I think this is a whole digression, but SimCity is another example, right? That sort of fell off from a quality perspective, and then some competitors have come in to maybe take over, like City Skylines and stuff. So
right.
I think the only opportunity that would happen is if AC ever fell off, you know.
Didn't deliver.
Didn't deliver, but they consistently deliver. And New Horizons, from what I've played and what we've been seeing from people, has, despite, you know, some of the challenges of its myopic perspective, is definitely the best version of this series they've ever done. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to check it out as well then, because we'll probably want to discuss it and the ways that it has extended and the franchise and all of that. So
I think it would make a good bonus episode for sure.
Episode for us. Okay, well, thank you again, Not a Doctor, for the review, and thanks to Violet B. Trudell. You can also send us email to devgameclub@gmail.com. You can find the show on the web at devgameclub.com or on Twitter at devgameclub, where you can also find my singing co-host at
Tim Longwood Jr. with the JR at the end.
As I mentioned, I've been playing some of his favorite things with Metal Gear Solid 4 on Twitch at twitch.tv/Brett Duville. That's sort of my nightly game. But I'm also every day playing a bit of Animal Crossing, so you can come and see either of those things day to day there.
Yeah, I need to get in on that.
Yeah, I know. That was part of what motivated all of this. Where is Tim? This is one of his favorite things, and that's how it all started. excited.
The timing on this is just tricky, so I need to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Well, bigger chunks of time on the weekends usually, so maybe we'll fit that in. And of course, our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton and commissioned by friend of the cast, Aaron Evers. Thanks so much to both of them. Enjoy taking care of your village this week, and good night.
Good night.